The camera pans across a busy street, horns honking, people rushing, city lights flickering against the cold concrete. Then it stops, on an old man sitting near a broken-down car with a cardboard sign that reads, "Hinifixi T Farfode." His clothes are torn, his hands are greasy, and his eyes tired, but holding something unspoken, something strong. Before I take you deeper into this man's story, pause for a second. Because what you're about to hear isn't just about survival, it's about redemption, resilience, and the hidden greatness that can live inside the most broken places. If you believe in second chances, if you believe in the power of never giving up, then hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories that remind you what humanity truly means. Now, let's begin. It was a cold afternoon in downtown Atlanta. The wind carried dust, noise, and the faint smell of burnt rubber from the nearby auto shops. People hurried by, most not even noticing the man crouched by the sidewalk. His name was Calvin Brooks, though to the world around him, he was just another homeless guy begging for food. His beard was graying, his skin rough from nights spent sleeping under bridges, and his clothes hadn't seen soap in weeks. But beneath that rugged shell lived a memory, one that once roared louder than the engines he used to race. Calvin wasn't always like this. There was a time when his name echoed through racetracks. They called him Flash Brooks, the man who broke speed records no one thought possible. In the 1980s and 90s, he was the pride of the African-American racing community, a trailblazer in a world that wasn't built to welcome him. He had a team, fans, sponsorships, and a fire that refused to burn out. Until one crash changed everything. It happened on a humid summer night in Talladega. He was leading the race, just 2 laps from victory, when another car clipped his bumper at over 180 miles per hour. His car spun violently, flames erupting, metal screaming as it collided with the wall. The crowd gasped, then silence. He woke up in a hospital weeks later. His left leg fractured, his career gone, and his contract terminated. Then came the lawsuits, the medical bills, the betrayal from sponsors who vanished overnight. And when his wife Lisa couldn't take the pressure, she left, taking their son Marcus with her. Calvin drowned in the silence that followed. Years passed, and the world moved on. His trophies gathered dust, his photos faded, and his name disappeared from the headlines. Now he sat on a sidewalk, surrounded by people who didn't know, or didn't care, who he once was. One afternoon, a bright red sports car pulled up near the curb. 2 young men stepped out, laughing loudly. They wore expensive jackets and confidence that came from never knowing struggle. The hood of their car popped open, and steam poured out. "Damn bro, she's overheating again," one of them said. The other glanced at Calvin, who was watching quietly. "Hey old man," he sneered, "you know anything about cars?" Calvin looked up slowly. "I used to," he said softly. The young man laughed. "Used to? Please man. You probably used to push grocery carts. Step away before you scratch my ride." Calvin smiled faintly, not in anger, but sadness. He knew this kind of mockery. He'd faced worse. The kind that hides behind politeness and corporate smiles. "I can fix it," he said gently. "Just a meal. That's all I ask." They burst out laughing. One of them pulled out his phone. "Yo, this is gold! Let's record this." The homeless mechanic trying to fix a Lambo for lunch. People gathered. Phones came up. Calvin said nothing. He reached for his small toolkit, the same one he'd carried for years, and leaned over the engine. His hands moved with precision, memory guiding him like music. Within minutes, he found the issue: a busted thermostat and a disconnected coolant hose. He tightened, adjusted, and poured in a little leftover water from his bottle. "Try it now," he said quietly. The young man scoffed but turned the ignition. The car purred to life, smooth and steady. The crowd gasped. Calvin stepped back, wiping his hands on his torn jacket. How'd you do that?" one asked, disbelief replacing arrogance. Calvin shrugged. "Engines talk, you just gotta listen." The man hesitated, then pulled out a $10 bill. "Here man, don't spend it all on booze." Calvin didn't take it. He just smiled. "Keep it. You'll need it for the next repair. That car's running too hot." They drove off, still confused, and the crowd slowly dispersed. But one person stayed behind. A young woman named Tanya, a local mechanic's apprentice who had watched everything. "Mister," she said softly, "you really know cars, don't you?" Calvin nodded. "Used to race them." She laughed. "Sure you did." But something about the calm in his voice made her curious. She offered him a sandwich and a cup of coffee. They sat on the curb as the sky turned orange. "What'd you race?" she asked. "NASCAR," he replied. "Back when they didn't want people like me behind the wheel." She blinked. What's your name again?" He hesitated. "Brooks, Calvin Brooks." Her eyes widened. "No way, you're Flash Brooks. My granddad used to tell me about you!" "The first black man to win the Daytona Regional." Calvin smiled faintly. "That was a long time ago." From that moment, Tanya wouldn't leave him alone, in the best way. She brought him tools, small jobs, and even convinced her boss to let Calvin work part-time fixing cars behind the shop. Slowly, he began to rebuild something. Not fame, not fortune, but dignity. Each turn of a wrench reminded him of who he was. But the world had another twist waiting. One afternoon, a familiar car pulled into the shop, the same red sports car. The young men stepped out, looking sheepish. Sir," one of them said. "The engine's acting up again. Can you?" Calvin raised an eyebrow. "Didn't I tell you to fix that thermostat?" They exchanged embarrassed glances. Tanya stepped forward, arms crossed. You mean the man you mocked on the street? The one who fixed your car for free? The boys looked stunned. You work here? Calvin chuckled softly. Something like that. One of them stammered. We're sorry, man, we didn't know who you were. You don't have to know who someone is. Calvin replied, to treat them with respect. His words hit harder than any engine roar. Then one of the shop's customers, a retired racer named Dale Winston, overheard the conversation. He froze mid-step when he saw Calvin. Flash Brooks, he whispered. It can't be. Calvin looked up and the two men stared at each other. Dale rushed forward, eyes wide. Man, I thought you were dead! You taught me half of what I know! The shop fell silent. Tanya's jaw dropped. The young men looked like ghosts. Dale turned to everyone. This man, he said loudly, was a legend, a pioneer. The reason black drivers even got a chance in NASCAR. And you're telling me he's fixing cars on the street for food. The moment went viral. Someone recorded the reunion and within hours, millions of people watched it online. Harmless mechanic turns out to be racing legend Calvin Brooks. The internet exploded with shock, admiration, and guilt. Donations poured in. Old fans came forward. News outlets reached out for interviews. But Calvin didn't crave fame anymore. He accepted a few interviews only to share a message. Success isn't about money or fame. It's about passion. It's about never letting your past define your worth. A few weeks later, Tanya helped him reopen a small garage. Flash Auto Works. The sign was simple, but every bolt, every tire, every roar of an engine carried something deeper: legacy. He hired other struggling veterans and homeless workers, giving them what he once lost, a second chance. One day as the sun dipped below the city skyline, Calvin stood by the doorway, watching Marcus, his now grown son, pull into the lot. Tanya had found him through the viral story. The reunion was quiet at first, just a long stare between two souls who had both been broken in different ways. Then Marcus stepped forward, tears filling his eyes. Dade, he whispered, I thought you were gone. Calvin's voice cracked. I was. But I'm back now. They embraced, no crowds, no cameras, just two hearts finding home again. And from that day on, Calvin didn't fix cars for food. He fixed lives with kindness, respect, and resilience. People came from all over to meet him, not for his fame but for his wisdom. His story reminded everyone that greatness can hide in plain sight. Beneath rags, behind scars, under bridges. So the next time you see someone struggling, remember this: you might be looking at a legend who just fell on hard times. And if Calvin Brooks' story touched your heart, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this story. Because the world needs more reminders that dignity, courage, and kindness are never truly lost, they just wait for someone to see them again.